Hey everyone, I'm going to pass it to Mackie.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mackie on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Actually, it's revolution.radio. That's right, but we're on Freedom Slips. It's revolution.radio, though. I think it's still cool, .radio. Where it's more than just radio, so jump in the chat room if you can. This is show number 347, 740 and 300, I think. Eight. Oh, my time. It runs. She runneth away from him. She runneth. 348, 840 and 300. Where has the time gone? It's on air, on the line, and on your smartish device. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or you can listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed Solaris' show, shame on you. You can catch her in the archives, and it only costs $5.95 a month to subscribe. It's awesome. So $5.95 a month, and you can listen to all the shows, including Solaris's, which I didn't listen to. I just got back from Wollongong. I literally stepped into my home as we speak, and here I am. It's about an hour and a half drive to my house from there. Catch up with friends down there. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, which for me are the Daruk or Darug people, and for Dave,
the Dark and Young.
That's the ones. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future, always remembering that the land we stand on, the land all our things are built upon in Australia, is built on land that has been populated for tens of thousands of years before the Dutch and then eventually the English showed up. There were traders from China and from Arabia. There were traders from all over the world that made it here. Some believe that the Phoenicians made it as far as Australia, and Romans, Egyptians as well.
Egyptians,
we have some glyphs up near, well, close enough to where we live, Gosford. Australia. I mean, it's the great southern continent. And that's what it means, Australia. Australis means south, Borealis is north, so that's all it means, the great southern land, really. And it has been populated, like I said, for a very, very long time, before white people ever even dreamt of coming here. Yes, specifically white people. In fact, there were, I think, 3 or 4, maybe more, migrational waves that came from the top end, the north of Australia, and down into the rest of Australia. So 4, or maybe more, very distinct, separate migratory waves before Captain Cook, or the Dutch, for that matter, ever dreamt of coming down here. By the way, Australia, if you go to some old maps, that is, old cartographers, is called New Holland.
Yeah.
Because the Dutch got to chart Australia first. And if you don't know, Manhattan also used to belong to the Dutch, and interestingly enough, it was called New Amsterdam back then, not New York, but New Amsterdam. And what's even funnier, the Dutch traded Manhattan for an island in the Indian Ocean. Now you go, why would you do that? Because that particular island is the single biggest producer of nutmeg. That's right. And they thought, that's a good idea. Let's get some nutmeg and get rid of this completely useless island, Manhattan, which doesn't help anyone do anything, right? Yeah, good trade there. Having said that, another interesting fact, who do you think is the single largest consumer of nutmeg on the planet? Dave, any guesses? Incorrect. But thank you for playing. No prize for you. Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola, but partial credit. The Coca-Cola. It's actually the Coca-Cola company is the single largest consumer of nutmeg. In case you're wondering what's in Coca-Cola, definitely nutmeg. 100%. Okay, I put my house on that one. Look, just very quickly though, you can subscribe to the archives, which is awesome. That's $5.95 a month. It helps to run the show. Like I said, it gives you access to all the shows that have been running, past, present, and future. And what you can also do, if you like, you can donate to the station. In fact, you just go to the station's homepage, which is www.revolution.radio, www.revolution.radio. Pretty straightforward address. Awesome. I still like the .radio thing. And I'm a simple mind amused by simple things. And you can donate. There's a donate button, very simple. It's on the left-hand corner under Studio A and Studio B. There are two players there. You can listen to it if you wish. And then under that is a yellow radio button. It's called donate. So there can't be any confusion. So you hit that, and then you can go off and donate some money to help run the station, which costs money. We don't get paid. None of the hosts get paid. We don't get any advertising budget either, so we don't advertise for anything except for the station's own shows or the station's own products. But we don't have any corporate funding for this station. It's listener funded, so it means if you want to listen to it, you can help fund it. Hopefully, you get some interesting information, some interesting opinions, which are not shaped by any particular corporation, government, or otherwise interested party, apart from the hosts themselves, such as Dave and I. So if you have the cash, please go ahead and donate. Dave, how has your week been?
Pony up the cash, everyone. Pony up the cash. My first comment is Solara's had a great show. She had Renee Colson on, and they were talking about music of the plants.
Nice.
Yeah, vibrational energies and all those kinds of things. And once again, a great show, Solaris. Thank you. Now, how was my week? My week was pretty good. I tried to keep up with the elections in the US, but I just found it really difficult to do that and maintain a job in this country, because the news, trying to see it live, it was just distressing. Too many out of hours events for me. So I just put some tweaks on some news feeds so I could see what was going on. We've got our own issues here with our own elections, and elections are coming up in probably Easter or something like that next year, and they've already started the gift giving. Can you believe that? Mackie, do you know the brilliant comic team of Brian Dawson and John, I forget his surname now. He's passed away last year. You know, Brian and John?
John somebody.
You know,
it's definitely John somebody.
It is John somebody. It's
Right,
John
then.
nobody. Do you know who I'm talking about? Brian and John, they do an interviewer and prime minister kind of interview, and it would all be.
Oh, I do.
John Clark.
Yes, I have no idea what he's called. John Clark. I was just about to say John Clark because in my mind I was thinking shoes, Clark, John. Boom.
However you get there, it doesn't matter. All right. So John Clark, and Brian Dorr. Now there was an interview this week with ScoMo, Scott Morrison, our current Prime Minister, after having stabbed in the back the previous Prime Minister, metaphorically. Well, there was an interview with him about the bus trip to Queensland, and I swear to you that it looked like it was a Brian Dorr and John Clark comic routine, because the interviewer was asking the Prime Minister, so how are you going to get there? By bus, he says. So you're going to be on the bus from Sydney? Oh yeah, travelling on the bus. And he goes, so what's the next leg of your itinerary? Well, see, I fly into wherever, some Queensland town, right? I fly in. And he goes, what, on the bus? It's a flying bus, is it? He goes, no, you see, the bus doesn't move as quickly as I need to get there. So you won't be on the bus the whole time, you see. And he goes, but I'll be on the bus. What? You can't be flying and on the bus at the same time. Hilarious it was.
In spirit.
The interviewer would not let it go. So what
So
about
he's
when you
gonna
get to
be
the
on the
next
helicopter,
town? Yeah, when he gets to the next town, oh, I've got to fly in to that, but I'll be on the bus when it arrives. So that means he's going to fly into town, get his car, right? Drive to the pre-town, meeting point, hop on the bus and arrive into the town on the bus to look like he's been on the bus the whole time. Hilarious. I mean, he could have just been on the bus the whole time.
That's cool.
Right. But
So I'm flying in my jet in style, getting my crystal. Yeah, I got it.
I'm the Prime Minister, I can do what I want. It's hilarious.
There you go.
I will send you, I'll send you a link to the transcript, and I swear it looks like a comedy routine. And look, this is the problem with our politics. It's like the little country town, really, compared to America's politics, I suspect, right? And but there was 3 things in this week's news that I wanted to bring up. Yeah, there's shootings in the USA. There's always shootings in the USA. You've got guns, they're going to go off, and like I said, it's like fire where you have a heat source, a fuel source, right? And what's the other one? Oxygen. So those 3 things, if you take away one, there's no more fire. So with a gun and a person with a motive being at a location, so if you, like I said, those 3 things, the person, the gun, and the location, if you can take away one of those, there's no problem. If you have a person at home with a gun, no problem. If you have a person and a gun out somewhere without a motive, no problem. Right? If you only have the gun at a location and no person, no problem. Just a gun somewhere. The gun's not killing people. People with motive are killing people for some reason, right? And they've got their own reason for it.
Hang on. You're saying guns are not the problem? Dave, I don't know, man. You're weird, man.
Well, all right. So that's a perfect segue to stabbings in Australia. We don't have so many guns, right? We've got knives. So what's the very next thing? Stab. So that's what they did. They don't have guns. They got knives. Oh, look, I don't have a gun. I got a knife. But I'm a person in a location with a motive. Right? I've got my knife. I've got a motive, and I'm somewhere. And that sound is them stabbing someone. I don't know why I just made that sound up. Right?
Yeah.
So,
no, I get it, man. It's all good.
If it's not guns, it's knives. And I don't care where you are on the planet, that's the next thing down. If we take all the knives away from everybody, we'll really wear our front teeth down with all the eating, with all the grinding from our front teeth. Because we'll only have 4.
But the truth is this, right? If somebody wants to kill, that's only dull spoons. Wooden dull spoons. That's all you're getting. But paper straws. They shall have paper straws. No, if somebody wants to be serious for a second, if somebody wants to cause damage, they will. And these days, we've seen. So in countries where gun control is fairly high, like in Europe, you see it a lot, like France, for example, Germany, certainly, even England, gun control is fairly high thing. So what do you see there? Do terrorist attacks not happen? No, they do happen. What happens is people use cars or trucks or knives, as it were. I mean, depending on the situation these days, when people are not prepared for this kind of thing, right? It's just not within our frame of mind or frame of reference to be attacked by someone in the street. I mean, we see the movies, but in our mind, it's really just a movie. It can't happen to me, clearly. I mean, how could it happen to me? And this is really the problem. We've never been exposed at large in the West of the world to a hostile environment. So some people that come from countries where this is, I guess, a regular occurrence have an advantage over Westerners in that way, where they are situationally aware. Right, they're present in the moment, and they can assess danger because they've been exposed to it since early childhood in some cases. That's the fundamental difference between people that grow up in a peaceful country and people that grow up in a non-peaceful country. So what do you do? Well, there's not much you can do. This is really the point. There's not a lot you can do. What we're seeing in China now, Dave, on the same subject, we're seeing an almost ubiquitous security system that is pretty much keeping tabs on everyone. Facial recognition, they've now moved to phase 2, which recognizes your gait, which means the way you walk, so they can now tell by your walk who you are essentially, right? Now, with that comes a whole bunch of data that's associated with you. And in fact, that's probably the only way we get all comfortable. Now, we have to put it in perspective, though. This is really tough to do. There are 7.7 something billion people on the planet, right? That's a lot of people. And in America, there are roughly 300 million people. In Australia, I think it's hitting 26 million people. In Europe, you've got, I think, close to 400 million people, and on and on. So we're talking of populations in the millions and the hundreds of millions, or even in the billions, in the case of China and India, right? Now, these are very large populations. Now, you have to then take a step back and look at the totality of fatalities related to terror and shootings and stabbings and all of that as well. So that you need to actually put these numbers in perspective. 7.7. Sorry. I think it's 7.766 billion. Oh, 7.66. Thanks, Dave. So to look at that as a totality, and what I mean by that is, yes, it's a horrific tragedy and it should not happen. I completely agree. But by the same token, we should not sign away our freedom, our liberty, our right to privacy, our right to assemble, and all of those wonderful things that a lot of us have. Not everyone, but quite a few of us have these rights. In fact, on flights into the US now, and I've had a few. This is now for a few years now. You're not allowed to assemble in groups larger than 3, and you're not allowed to hang around the toilets on flights into the US. You're not allowed to do that. They will come and disperse you. So I was just getting up. This is probably last year or the year before. Stretch my feet. It was a long flight. It was from Sydney to Dallas. It's like 18 hours, right? So obviously, I stretched my feet. It was an A380, I think it was. It was a nice plane. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you stretch around, and I happened to be traveling with some colleagues, and I think there were 3 or 4 of us standing near the back section of the plane, which is a fairly large area, and there's a couple of toilets there as well. But it's not a small area of the plane. It's fairly large. You can get your snacks there if you've ever flown on it, and we were dispersed because we weren't allowed to congregate in numbers. This paranoia has set in. Similarly, so the Chinese have introduced this new camera technology, which not just takes the camera pictures and the footage, but also analyzes it and can pinpoint who you are, what you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. Is this what we want? Because in order to get close to perfect safety and perfect security, we would have to monitor everybody all the time, or get to it as close as possible. Now the question is, do we really want that? Is this something that we want? And the answer is, in my mind, no, it is not. Because yes, every death is tragic, and I mean, if it happened to me, I'd be devastated, right? And I'd be, I have some experience with losing people in my life. It's a horrible thing, but you have to look at it in the totality of all numbers involved. You got populations of millions, hundreds of millions, and billions, and the related or the terror-related deaths are at this point in the thousands. Right? I mean, the single biggest tragedy was, of course, 9/11. Close to 4,000 people were killed in that attack. And then, I mean, others, same as shootings. Shootings kill, tens or even scores of people. That is true. In total population terms, though, the number is vanishingly small. You have a better chance of being hit by lightning than die in a shooting or in a terrorist attack. You have a better chance of dying in a car crash or in traffic, in a general traffic accident, even as a pedestrian or cyclist, than you have of dying in a terrorist attack or in a shooting or anything.
Winning lotto is another one.
Or winning lotto. Yeah, look, that's right, Dave. So we have to look at in perspective. So because we are all now what the elite really wants, and this is my point, what the elite really wants is for us to shout, we need more security. We need to feel more secure. We need to feel safe in our homes. You know, I don't want to lock my home anymore. I want to make sure that all the baddies and all the evildoers are taken care of, and on it goes. Yeah, no, of course, I feel the same way. Absolutely, 100%. I have no argument with that whatsoever. The problem, of course, is that it doesn't quite work like that. It doesn't quite. What do I mean by that? Well, Mackie, you say, of course it works like that. No, it doesn't. And it doesn't because the vast majority of us will probably never be in a situation of this kind of violence, right? Yet we all want that security. We want that safety. We want to feel like it can never happen to us. So will we welcome the chip when it comes? Yes, we will. Will we welcome the complete surveillance state when it comes? Yes, we will.
Yes, we will.
All on the back of these events, which in perspective, if you put it in perspective, are tiny little events. Horrible, very impactful, right? But you have to ask yourself as well, who's orchestrating these events, right? That's another thing you have to ask yourself. Am I saying that all of these events are orchestrated? No, not at all. Of course not. I mean, there are always enough nutbags, you know, to do these things on their own. But there's certainly events, when you look at the evidence, that are certainly, or they certainly have the air of orchestration. They certainly have the air of, well, maybe there's an agenda here that we can't quite see, or we can suspect, and it certainly would have taken a lot of planning to execute it as perfectly as it was executed. You know, so you have to ask yourself what the motivations are. You know, who stands to gain, who stands to benefit, and the total surveillance society is no longer a fantasy. 1984 is no longer a fantasy. 1984 is here. The total surveillance society is here. I work in IT, and we talk about data lakes, machine learning, deep learning, AI. And what that really means is, so there's a whole bunch of data. Data is just things that can be known, right? It could be videos, books, it could be recordings, it could be a whole bunch of different. So data is fairly innocuous. Data is not good, it's not bad, it's just stuff, right? In and of itself, completely useless. It doesn't do anything for you, data, right? It doesn't. What you need to do, you need to turn that data into information. We spoke about this last time. Now that you've got information, you've analyzed the data, you've grouped it, you've categorized it, you can do certain things with this information. That's where we are. We are able to analyze the data and then turn it into information. We can use that information to further action certain things. You know, we can I guess have targeted advertising campaigns. We can follow a certain person. We can decrypt certain phone calls, or we can pick up certain key phrases in conversations, whatever medium they're being held in. You know, that's powerful stuff. Will it always be right? No, it won't. But we're getting to the point where almost everything about you will be known if you are on the line. Okay. If you're online, if you have got a smart device, if you've got a laptop, a computer, whatever it is, even a smart TV, a lot of things about you are known. And even if you don't have any of that, even if you don't, but you move around in the cities, but you don't have a phone, you don't have an email account, you don't participate in the technology, the technology that everybody else is participating in, they will still have you on record because there'll be recordings of you. From video cameras and such, because there's
other people's phones will have heard you.
Other people's phones, exactly, right? So it is no longer. So just not participating is no longer enough, right? Living in a Leyden jar probably is not a bad idea, or going off the grid somewhere, deep underground or in some deep forest, that might be a thing for you,
Mackie,
but not for much longer either.
It's extremely difficult today because of the payment system is all now online.
Yes.
So you can't work.
It's almost
you can't work in
yeah.
cash. It's all now electronic. No. And
being
able to spend money, right? Spending money somewhere, that transaction is tracked, and they know something about you. They at least know where you were and what you purchased. But from the big data perspective, they can tell who you live with, if you have any pets, for instance, right? All of this stuff. They can tell your age by what you eat. They know what kind of work you're doing because of the company that's paying you. So even though you don't think you might be on there, if you're receiving the pension to an address, they know about you. You're on file, right?
Yeah.
So this is really tough. Now, if you weren't to say anything or go anywhere, and being a recluse and off grid, and you didn't have any money, you didn't have any services, you didn't pay any taxes, or you didn't do anything at all, you could probably, I'd probably say, well done you on being able to avoid being on record recently.
But at that point, you have to ask yourself, what's the point of it all?
Yeah.
Because if you, I mean, the thing is this. I mean, in order to affect change or add meaning to things, I mean, you have to be able to participate somehow or interact with people, right? I mean, that's fundamental. I mean, if you're happy to live off grid completely and not interact with the human race, like you could probably be okay, right? And in fact, you know, they probably leave you alone because it's completely irrelevant. I mean, you can do nothing. They don't care about you, right? And if that's what you want, you know, more power to you. I get it. But those of us that have a digital footprint, which is the vast majority, and do want to make a difference, we have to watch ourselves going forward, because it happened slowly. It happened stealthily, step by step. You know, the anti-terror laws, you know, the curtailing of certain rights in every country, by the way. A tightening of security procedures, you know, like the little things are being taken away here, there, and everywhere, and before you know it, you might be finding yourself in a situation which allows you to, well, pretty much do nothing. Okay, so you can no longer properly, I don't know, engage, right? Because you've been curtailed, and if you do engage, if you do say things they don't like, they will take you away. And again, I've asked this question before. I've asked this question years ago, and I'll ask you again. Maybe it's a different answer now. So what would you do if you're just driving along in the street or walking along, whatever it is, in the street, and you see a couple of policemen or even the military stopping someone and putting them away, or putting handcuffs on them and taking them away? That just looks like a normal, ordinary person, maybe, you know. You don't know. I mean, that's what you see. The chances are, in my opinion, I could be wrong, chances are that you do nothing. You just you know, mind your own business, right? So that person might shout out, "Hey, help me! I've done nothing. Help me, please! Someone help me!" I don't think anybody would anymore. I think
if they opened up checkpoints between towns where they asked to see your credentials.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Yeah.
The reason why Mekki and I are bringing this up is because these were precursors to a terrible time in the 19th century. Yeah? And we're so close. We're seeing this. And these few little tiny steps is so close to having, you know, a fascist, totalitarian government rule over us because of nothing but data. Nothing but data. That's all it takes. Now, they'd probably already know who we were anyway if they had a camera up with face rec, right? Because in Australia, we've already got face recognition everywhere. We already have our non-smiling face taken as a photo for our licenses, but it's also a federal identification system. And that non-smiling face, when they're able to put an algorithm on it, they can give it any expression they want, and that can match up to anything. So you just have to remember that. Mekki, did you want to round that out? To Mekki. No, he's muted. Look, I'm going to move
Sorry.
on.
Yeah, sorry. Very quickly, all we have to do is be vigilant. That's really the key message. Vigilance is important. Be aware and understand what you're signing up.
Because as Mekki was saying before, what you're willing to see happen to others, you must be willing to happen to you. There you go. Said it. I said it right here, right now. Just be aware of that, because there'll be no one else to complain to when it happens to you. Becky, the other thing was fires in LA. Even Trump has commented about this week, because there's fires in LA at both sides, or in California at both ends. And hang on, when was it just simply a seasonal thing that happened every year? And there used to be gap years where there wasn't fire.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, it's the new thing, and no one's batting an eyelid to it. And Trump says it's mismanagement. It's what he's weighed in on it, right?
Everything is mismanagement.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to move on from that. I just want to bring that up because we're coming into fire season in Australia, and I predict that this season is going to be pretty bad for fires. So keep your eyes peeled for fires. Dubai. This is a cool tech thing. Dubai are introducing hover bikes. So they're like radial fan, cool. Rear and front and rear radial fans, and I think in 4 in quadrants. So at the front left, front right, rear left, and they're able to fully steer them around and get them around. So we've seen these sort of in the making, but they're now introducing those for the police department. Wow, how cool is that, right? They must be good.
I think it's awesome. I wonder how that will work, though. I mean, I like to see it. I really would like to see it.
Yeah, me too. But I want to give you the heads up. There's 3 asteroids that are going to be flying past us tonight, our time, tonight Australian time. So that'll be sort of midday for the US. So keep your eyes peeled. NASA say, they're millions of kilometers away. No one should even care. But as every time they've spoken, it's not always been the case. So one of them is 336,000 kilometers. One's 1.3 million kilometers away, and the other one is 5 million. So the closest one is just outside of the orbiting satellites, but I just have to say that they're 16 minutes apart. So the first one is 6 a.m. between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Our time Sunday. So that's within the next 6 hours, say, right? 6 to 10 hours from now. The second asteroid is 16 minutes later after that. And then there's another one that comes in a little bit later. So it's still the same time period for all 3 of them. So between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. So within a 5-hour period, all 3 will come past. But, it's not the only thing that's come past. How's that for a segue, Mickey?
No, I like it. Now, there's actually another space object out there. It's called Oumuamua, which has been with us since 2017. Now you say, so what? So what? Well, there's a paper that was published. I'm downloading as we speak, by 2 Harvard researchers, 2 Harvard scientists, and they have raised the possibility that Oumuamua is actually an alien spacecraft. The paper was published on November 12th, a few days ago. Last year, I should say. But the point is that what they're raising is that the object actually sped up as it got away from the sun, so it might have had a deployed light sail or something, like that potentially. So is it possible that this Oumuamua is an alien spacecraft? Yeah, it is possible. Do we know anything else about it? No, we know nothing. All we know is that it came from, I'll tell you where it came from, Boetis, I think. Let me see, blah, blah. Object, oh yeah, it came from the constellation of Lyra, which is only about 25 light years away. And that small constellation boasts a bright star called Vega. And the paper just came down, and I'm going to read you the abstract of the paper. And it was written by Shmuel Biala and Abraham Loeb, and they're from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, 60 Garden Street in Cambridge. And the abstract goes like this. Oumuamua is the first object of interstellar origin observed in the solar system. Recently, Micheli et al. In 2018, who's another group of scientists, reported that Oumuamua showed deviations from a Keplerian orbit at a high statistical significance, which means so Kepler, again, the astronomer, quite a long time ago since he died, but he pretty much calculated all the orbits for the planets, so he was quite an influential astronomer. And within any object that moves in a natural fashion moves along a Keplerian orbit, but there was a deviation which had a high statistical significance, which means it didn't follow Kepler's path, or the path it should have followed if it were just an asteroid. The observed trajectory,
which can suggest it was steered.
But yeah, potentially. So they go on to say here, the observed trajectory is best explained by an excess radial acceleration. And there's a formula here, and it's got to do with evaporating material. However, so if something was evaporating, right, near the sun, for example, it could then push it into a different kind of orbit. Now, especially if it's near the sun, such an acceleration is naturally expected for comets driven by the evaporating material, like I said. However, recent observation and theoretical studies imply that Oumuamua is not an active comet. Now, these scientists here, we explore the possibility that the excess acceleration results from solar radiation pressure, right? And what they find in their calculations is that although extremely thin, such an object would survive an interstellar travel over galactic distances, over 5 kiloparsecs potentially, and withstanding collisions with gas and dust grains, as well as stresses from rotation and tidal forces. We discuss, again, the abstract goes, we discuss the possible origins of such an object, including the possibility that it might be a light sail of artificial, or our general results apply to any light probes designed for interstellar travel. That's the abstract of the Harvard paper. So they think it is possible that Oumuamua is an artificial object that started in the constellation of Lyra, maybe from the star Vega, I don't know, 25 light years away, and it was sent on a trajectory that would bring it, I guess, into our sun's orbit, as it were. And then did get here, it might have unfolded the light sail potentially and accelerated away again. So that's the long and short of that paper. Fascinating that scientists, especially Harvard scientists, would now entertain this kind of thinking, Dave. I mean, 5-10 years ago, it would have been completely, in my opinion, I could be wrong, it would have been completely impossible and career suicide to even mention the possibility that an object that enters our solar system could be of, not so much of extrasolar origin, which this clearly is, but rather that is a created object, a manufactured object, or tentacled. I mean, manufacture refers to the use of hands, so clearly these aliens might not have hands, so it might be a tentacled object. If there's such
yeah, completely. I think that career suicide that you mentioned is, and what was preventing anyone from truly commenting, only the courageous or brave scientist, and courageous means that's career limiting. That's what courageous means in political speak.
Yeah, no.
It really does. So watch Yes, Prime Minister, and you'll understand. You'll get a picture of it. So artist impressions show it to be a long, very long, narrow rock. That's what the artist impression shows. Nothing more.
Right.
it doesn't. It looks like, you know, a splinter. You could have zoomed in to a splinter that, you know, got trapped under your skin. That's what it looks like. It's very hard to understand from my brain how an object could maintain a trajectory with the thin profile always being the lead profile. So it's not tumbling. That's what I'm saying. I'm making a point to say that if it had have been broken off something, the likelihood of a tumble would be very high, statistically.
Absolutely. In fact, the most likely outcome would be a tumble, right?
Of any kind of acceleration, if this was a natural object.
Mm-hmm.
So unlikely, because there's no drag in space. So unlikely that it would have perfect alignment to its length to be able to maintain without, is it yaw? I think it's yaw, because pitch, it pitches going up and down from the front, and roll is turning around on its axis.
Yaw.
Yeah,
that's right.
so that's what I'm saying. So for it to not have that property in its movement is extremely unusual. Now maybe, just maybe, it really is a spacecraft of some kind, right? Or maybe it's intelligently controlled.
Now, which brings me to another point that I wanted to make, and then I'll leave all this cosmology and astrophysics alone. But we've always been saying, Dave, or not we, well, science has been saying that the universe tends towards entropy, right? Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Well, entropy essentially means a move away from order. So we move, every system naturally decays, its energy decays into chaos. So it will seek its own lowest energy levels, right? So all energy will dissipate into eventual non-existence, if you will, entropy, right? So, but human beings, in fact, any biological system is the exact opposite to entropy. Okay, so you've got two forces, I believe, two fundamental forces at play in the multiverse, potentially, right? One is the principle of chaos or entropy, and the other one is the principle of order or organizational units, if you want to call it that, right? Or any kind of organizational unit. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot. So if a system without biological units, if you will, or sentient units, or units that are somehow self-propelled in some way, serving a self-interest, right? I mean, what are we looking at here? Is this the fundamental conflict? Is the fundamental conflict between order and chaos, like some people have stipulated? In fact, all our religions, and I have thought about this quite a bit, all our religions have this dichotomy between order and chaos. In our Christian context, to give you an example, it is represented by the forces of God versus the forces of the devil or Satan or Lucifer, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. To simplify it. Other religions had the same. There was Ahriman, who was fighting Ahura Mazda. Ahriman being chaos and Ahura Mazda being order. And this duality pretty much has been with us forever. Now, in the monotheistic religions, that duality was meant to have gone away. There's one God. That's it. Now, this one God had to then embody both forces, order as well as chaos. I mean, good and evil, right? I mean, there's still this dichotomy. How is it possible that God would allow evil to happen in the world to test us? And the agent of this evil, because it could be God himself, would have to be the devil. So that was, to me, this very much destroyed the purity of the monotheistic faith, right? Because again, it was all meant to be just the God. There's just the one God, and the one God is responsible for everything. But because there's evil, we needed an agent for this evil thing, if you will, right? So, we are fundamentally looking at the world through bifocal lenses, right? Order, chaos, good, evil, and so on and so forth, right? Yin, yang, and all that. So, fundamentally, I think the forces at play in the multiverse, or maybe just this particular universe, as it were, in our little prison universe, these are the forces that are at play. If the system was left alone, and this is where I'm coming to the hypothesis, if the system was left alone, it would move toward entropy, right, Dave? Mm-hmm. Meaning to its lowest possible energy state. It would just completely dissolve. I mean, that's what happens. It moves away from an ordered system. Because nature is not, or sorry, I shouldn't say nature, but the universe doesn't seem to be self-organizing. It doesn't seem to be self-organizing. It moves toward entropy. Now, if you put us in here, biological, sentient, whatever units, spiritual units, I don't care what you want to call it, you are now working against entropy. So the question that I used to have, well, why are we here? Why are we important? Why is it important that we observe the universe and ensure its continued existence? Why is this important? Well, maybe, just maybe, we are here to ward off entropy for this particular reality, right? Because we, in our very nature, is self-organizing. We can't help it. That's how it is. Our cells are self-organizing at a very fundamental level. DNA is probably the greatest blueprint that I've ever seen for anything, anywhere. The sheer information that's packed into DNA, any sounding RNA, same thing, DNA, RNA. The information and the consequent decoding into biological units is an astounding thing if you really take the time to think about it. So is our presence in this reality coupled with the biological necessity to self-organize? So we have the sentience, that's us, the self-awareness that observes, let's call it this double-slit experiment, and causes this reality to collapse in on itself into this one reality we're expecting, coupled with the biological self-organizing principle, right? So it's like a two-pronged approach, and maybe it wouldn't work any other way either, because entropy would always win out unless there's some force working against it, which is, again, order, the self-organizing principle, which is represented by our biological units, our biological existence. Probably too much for Sunday night, right? but do you, I don't know. Is anybody still with me? Is anybody with me? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's too much. But look, just think about it, guys. Think about what do you think about it? Do you feel there's this fundamental battle between chaos, order, entropy, and moving systems into a high energetic state, or is it is it just me? And then why are we here? I mean, is it really just so to perpetuate this reality, right? In my mind, the biological necessity exists, and the biological necessity represents the self-organizing principle, which helps keep this universe moving, alive in a way, right? This reality. So it's a double-pronged approach, a two-pronged approach, and it's really ingenious if you think about it, right? Because while you're collapsing it into a one reality, you're at the same time fighting entropy, right? So whoever designed this, head off. Good job, but I want to get out of here.
Oh, so how was your week then?
Yeah, it was good. I've been thinking about entropy.
Clearly.
No, it was clearly. No. My week has been great. I don't think I have to do any more travel this year for work, which is great. So that this is bonus for myself and my family. Dave, how are you traveling, my friend?
Yeah, pretty good actually. The family is good. My girls went to, and if only the morning crew were awake at the station, because my daughters went on a horse riding school. They went to a horse riding school to celebrate their birthday. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool.
Absolutely. And I've got a few friends that own horses, up here on the coast, and they said, watch out, they'll get the bug.
Oh yeah, because the horses, it's a really cheap
Really, quite clearly cheap. Yeah, really, very cheap. And so they just warned me that might be a thing, and they're right at the right time for that to take place. And but look, they loved it. They thought it was great. I remember spending some summers at my uncle's farm, having to ride a horse around at their age, and I didn't have any training school to go to. It was, my uncle saying, "You're coming with me. Here's your horse. I've saddled her up for you. There you go." Okay.
Nice.
So you get used to it. It sort of felt like, remember that movie where the three guys went across herding cattle? And
the City Slickers.
City Slickers, that's right. And the old guy dies, and they have to do it anyway. It's very funny.
Jack Palance.
That's right, Jack Palance. Yeah. So I remember my transition to just knowing what I was doing. That I think my girls got by at least the first hour, which was good. I think they're naturals. But otherwise, the weather's nice. Took the dog out to the dog park today. Had a play around. Talked about climate change with the other patrons at the dog park. I said,
and how did that go?
Oh, it was okay. I said, there's three different camps. There's the deniers, the believers, and those who think it's cyclical. I said, I don't really care what the blame is for it myself, and it was a whole conversation around it. I was really impressed with the position that they all took and how they were able to. I said, just sell me your position, sell it to me. And they did a great job. So they weren't the uninformed people who just were listening to the news and followed someone on YouTube or something, right? They really did know. They had the evidence to back it
up.
They weren't armchairs, right? They were all right.
That's good. That's good. Look, that's important. I mean, it doesn't matter because right, wrong, and different. At least be informed. I mean, I don't care what your opinion is. I really don't. I have an opinion though. And base an opinion on something that works for you, because ultimately, we are all going to be held responsible for our lives. It might not come to you in a way that you expect, and it might not come to you immediately. It might not come to you in this lifetime. But ultimately, all our actions we're going to be called on to justify. I firmly believe that. And so what will you say? I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your religion is. I don't even care if you're an atheist. At some point, there's going to be a reckoning of some sort where you have to say, well, what do you have to say for yourself? And I'm not a religious guy. I'm probably as far from a religious guy as you can get. I have got faith in certain things, but I have no religion. That's me over there in the corner, losing my religion. but it is certainly something that we need to think about, because even if you're not held accountable with you there, your children, your descendants, someone will think, I mean, what we think. Oh, all right, no worries. Speak to you soon, guys.
It's just a short break. We'll see you after this.
Who express them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions.
Welcome back to Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mekki. This is show number 348. 348. That's crazy.
Crazy.
840
and 300.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's good. And we're talking about death, resurrection, and Christmas. And this is episode 3 so far.
That's right.
So, just to also state that you should get yourself some merchandise from the station's website. You can buy a CD of your favourite host shows from a previous season, maybe an EMP-proof thumb drive with survival documents, or 75,000 seeds in a pack. You follow the instructions if you're donating. There's usually an offer on, so try and take advantage of that. And this is also being picked up terrestrially on WCCR 101.3 in Kentucky. Amazing. I love technology. So, Becky, where are we up to? Because I remember you were talking about cancer, telomeres.
Yes, we did.
And telomerase.
Yep. In fact, we are up to the grey box on page. I'm going to call this page. It doesn't tell me what page. What exactly are telomeres?
Exactly where I was.
Page, good man. Page number 6. So what are telomeres? We talked last week. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We talked about telomeres, telomerase. We talked about why we die. And I mean this in the sense of senescence, in sense of aging. Why do we age? Because if you die because you're hit by a car, that's not going to help. Like telomere is not going to help you. You know, hit by a car, that's it. Or you know, if you blow up with your spaceship, none of these things are going to be very helpful to live. To help you live forever. But certainly, when it comes to the aging process, we're looking at arresting that. And I'm reading Dr. Park's book right now. The Telomere Time Bomb, and it's pretty straightforward stuff, and it's no different to any of the things Dave and I have been saying for the last 7 years, really. So what are telomeres? Telomeres are special, essential DNA sequences at both ends of each chromosome. Each time chromosomes replicate, a small amount of the DNA at both ends is lost by an uncertain mechanism. Because human telomeres shorten at a much faster rate than many lower organisms, we speculate that this telomere shortening probably has a beneficial effect for humans, namely mortality. So the beneficial effect is mortality. Clearly, one of the evolutionary advantages of a human being is that we die, not. The telomere hypothesis of aging postulates that as the telomeres naturally shorten during the lifetime of an individual, a signal or set of signals is given to the cells to cause the cells to cease growing, which is then called senescence, aging, really. At birth, human telomeres are about 10,000 base pairs long, but by the age of 100 years, it's reduced to about 5,000 base pairs. A telomerase, though, is actually an enzyme, a catalytic protein that is able to arrest or even reverse this shortening process. And normally, telomerase is only used to increase the length of telomeres during the formation of sperm and perhaps eggs, thus ensuring that our offspring inherit long, young telomeres to propagate the species. Otherwise, you know, if our reproductive material was to age just like we age, our children would be born with old DNA, and we have a Benjamin Button scenario where you're born old. Nobody wants that, I should think. Which brings us to a new player, my friend.
It sure does. So now, progerin, or this is probably the way I'd pronounce it. Progerin. Scientists now believe that the protein called progerin, causing rapid aging symptoms in its victims, is the same protein that causes our own more standard aging. Progerin stems from a gene mutation that shows up in abundance in the disease, but in more manageable quantities in all of us. It causes extreme premature aging. Recently, Mackie, I saw some medical reports saying that some certain painkillers can allow this balance to go out of control while you're taking them, and you can age rather quickly when you're taking a certain painkiller. I won't name it. Do your own research. When the telomeres become too short and frayed, this triggers the production of progerin, signaling to the body that the cell is at the end of its useful life. Now, that quote comes from Dr. Francis Collins, director of the National Institute of Health, Aladdin H. Studies are underway to block the excess production of the protein in children with progeria, which may in turn lead to slowing our own aging and preventing age-related diseases such as cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Mekki.
How are scientists reverse the aging process in mice? And now we're going to try the same in humans. Harvard scientists were surprised that they saw a dramatic reversal, not just a slowing down of the aging in mice. So we're not just talking about a slowing down of the aging process, we're talking about a reversal, essentially a fountain of youth, if you will, right? A laboratory mice in a scientist's hand, reactivating, oh, sorry, that's not good, that's good. Scientists claim to be a step closer to reversing the aging process after rejuvenating worn-out organs in elderly mice. You hear that? Rejuvenating worn-out organs. Forget about transplants, what about cloning? The organs you have are going to be rejuvenated. The experimental treatment developed by researchers at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute at Harvard Medical School turned weak and feeble old mice into healthy animals by regenerating their aged bodies. Not transplanting new stuff into it, regenerating. Excuse me.
Rejuvenating.
The surprise recovery of the rejuvenating. The surprise recovery of the animals has raised hopes among scientists that it may be possible to achieve a similar feat in humans, or at least to slow down the aging process. An anti-aging therapy could have a dramatic impact on public health by reducing the burden of age-related health problems such as dementia, stroke, and heart disease, and prolonging the quality of life for an increasingly aged population. What we saw in these animals was not a slowing down or stabilization of the aging process. We saw a dramatic reversal, and that was unexpected, said Ronald DePino, who led the study, which was published in the journal Nature. This could lead, he goes on, to strategies that enhance the regenerative potential of organs as individuals age and so increase their quality of life. Whether it serves to increase longevity is a question we are not yet in a position to answer. The aging process is poorly understood, but scientists know it is caused by many factors. Highly reactive particles called free radicals are made naturally in the body and cause damage to cells, while smoking, ultraviolet light, and other environmental factors contribute to aging. Just very quickly here, ultraviolet light. This is, again, a little sidestep here, sorry. For me, it once again brings home the reality that we on the surface of the planet are the afterthought. We live on the surface of the planet exposed to UVA and UVB light, which is not good for us by any stretch of the imagination. We should not be exposed to it, but yet we are. So I strongly believe there is an underground civilization or civilizations on this planet and other planets potentially that lives the life that we should be leading, I guess, as well, right? So we are sort of the surface dwellers, the exiled tribes to some extent. If you're looking at the internal or the inner terrestrials, I'm not talking about hollow Earth at all. I'm not talking about a hollow Earth. I'm talking about large caverns within the Earth's mantle, which we know exist. Am I saying the Earth is hollow? I'm not saying that. Am I saying it's not? No, I'm not saying that either. I don't know. But you don't need a hollow Earth in order for civilizations to be sustained underground. Not necessary. Anyway, the Harvard group focused on a process called telomere shortening. And we know all about that, right? Most cells in the body contain 23 pairs of chromosomes, which carry our DNA. Again, we should all know this by now. At the ends of each chromosome is a protective cap called a telomere. Each time a cell divides, the telomeres are snipped shorter until eventually they stop working and the cell dies or goes into a suspended state called senescence. The process is behind much of the wear and tear associated with aging. At Harvard, they bred genetically manipulated mice that lacked an enzyme called telomerase that stops telomeres getting shorter. Without the enzyme, the mice aged prematurely and suffered ailments, including the poor sense of smell, smaller brain size, infertility, and damaged intestines and spleens. But when DePino gave the mice injections to reactivate the enzyme. It repaired the damaged tissues and reversed the signs of aging. Says Dr. Pino. These were severely aged animals, but after a month of treatment, they showed a substantial restoration, including the growth of new neurons in their brains. I'm saying this loudly because that's really, really, really important, Dave.
It sure is. Oh my goodness. I like how they just, don't explain that they've got this anti-aging drug.
Right?
Yeah, and they can trigger it. They can turn it on and off at will. They don't tell you that it's in the subtext here. So, repeating the trick in humans will be more difficult. Mice make telomerase throughout their lives, but the enzyme is switched off in adult humans. An evolutionary compromise that stops cells growing out of control and turning into cancer. Both Becky and I are pausing here and saying that statement is incorrect. Raising levels of telomeres in people might slow the aging process, but it makes the risk of cancer soar. No, it doesn't. Your exposure to radioactive elements may increase, but not your risk of cancer. Tapino said the treatment might be safe in humans if it were given periodically and only to younger people who do not have tiny clumps of cancer cells already living unnoticed in their bodies. So, what? You mean you're only giving this to healthy young people? That doesn't make any sense. David Kipling, who studies aging at Cardiff University, said the goal for human tissue rejuvenation would be to remove senescent cells or else compensate for the deleterious effects they have on tissues and organs. Although this is a fascinating study, it may be remembered, it sounds like his tenure is talking here, that mice are not little men, particularly with regard to their telomeres, and it remains unclear whether a similar telomerase reactivation in humans would lead to the removal of senescent cells. Lynn Cox, a biochemist at Oxford University, said the study was extremely important and provides proof of a principle that short-term treatment to restore telomerase in adults already showing age-related tissue degeneration can rejuvenate aged tissues and restore physiological function. That's concrete right there. Tapino said, none of the Harvard's mice developed cancer after the treatment. Good on you, Tapino. The team is now investigating whether it extends the lifespan of mice or enables them to live healthier lives into old age. That's the question we raised last week in our show. Tom Kirkwood, director of the Institute of Aging and Health at Newcastle University, said the key question is what this might mean for humans. I just got those around the wrong way. Human therapies against age-related diseases. While there is some evidence that telomere erosion contributes to age-associated human pathology, it is surely not the only or even dominant cause, as it appears to be in mice engineered to lack the telomerase. Furthermore, there is ever-present anxiety that telomerase reactivation is a hallmark of most human cancers. See, listen to the tenure though, Mackie. Listen to the tenure. So, the hallmark of most human cancers is that cancer itself turns it on to make itself immortal.
Yep.
Because otherwise we wouldn't even notice. The cell would just go through its normal lifespan and die and wouldn't be replicated, right? But what happens is it makes itself immortal and replicates this immortality, and it can't be killed by the body. Can't be killed, doesn't die. It just lives forever. It'll outlive us, right? And that's the I think so. There's some interesting points raised in that by those 3-4 different specialists.
I completely agree. And this is really the crux of it, right? I mean, are we saying that telomeres or telomerase treatment is going to be the panacea for all? No, I mean, but what it will do is arrest the aging process and potentially reverse the aging process. It may even protect the cells against cancers and further mutations because the cell integrity is kept intact, right? I mean, the replication of cell mutations would be limited because the telomeres would be healthy and protecting the DNA information. Now, if the DNA itself is already faulty, now there's certain people that have genetic diseases. That's a thing, right? And it might skip certain generations, but there are diseases or ailments that are expressed in our genes, and they're sometimes switched on and sometimes they're not. And they're fairly rare, but they exist. Are telomeres going to help with that? No. In fact, the telomeres will protect that information within the DNA, right? That's really the point here. It will protect whatever information the DNA has. The telomeres will protect, and the telomerase will protect the telomeres, right? And that's really what we're saying. It's not going to heal everybody. This is not an all-healing, all-dancing show, but it will arrest the aging process for most human beings, and potentially even reverse it. Other things are important, of course. I mean, if you smoke and take every drug under the sun and only eat bacon for every meal, your lifespan is not going to be significantly increased. Okay, that's not how this works. But if you live a good life, let's call it, or you look after yourself, you exercise sensibly, you eat a sensible diet, whatever that might be, you look after yourself, then the telomere treatment is for you, or the telomerase activation, I should say, right? If you get hit by a truck or you fall off a balcony, none of it will, will make you live any longer.
They're quite particular, those two accidents, Mackie.
Well, they are, right? But my point is, right, we're talking about a very specific thing here, everybody on the radio, in Radio Land out there, and maybe, listening after the fact on YouTube and whatnot. We're talking about a very specific thing. We're talking about the arrest of the aging process, right, of regular human beings, right? Anything else, I mean, telomeres cannot protect you from a falling tree. They cannot protect you from eating, like I said, bacon every day for every meal, okay? It just, I know I bring up bacon, but it's such a delicious...
I'll have to cancel my bacon
thing.
Truck delivery. My bacon, deep fries bacon.
Ooh,
like a coffee van.
Deep fried bacon. Is there anything finer? Yeah, wash it down with copious amounts of coffee. But look, it is what it is, and I do believe that if we lived more consciously, right, and we made this available, would the death rate significantly drop? Honestly, Dave, I don't think so. I don't think so, because people are still people. We're for the most part, we are mostly idiots, right? And we do things that are completely contrary to our best interest. We just do that. I mean, that's just what we do. I mean, why would anybody?
The Darwin Awards every year.
Every year.
Stand to tantamount to pointing this out.
Yeah.
That humanity is filled with people that shouldn't be part of the gene pool.
That's right, and thank you for removing yourself from it. But
give it a good hard shot, I'll tell you.
Right. But the point is, though, I mean, I want to give you a very simple, very popular example. Who in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to jump out of a plane, right, with a parachute?
I wouldn't even.
I mean, who would think that?
Unless the plane was going down and that was my only option.
Different story.
Yeah.
And how about, absolutely. And how about a bungee jumping? I mean, so we do a whole bunch of things in the name of thrill seeking, and we like the thrill of these things, falling, the sensation of falling, the sensation of, flying, and I get it, and that's goodness. There's nothing wrong with it. Having said that, it is complete insanity, which does nothing to increase your lifespan. So please be clear that that's not what we're talking about. And I also maintain, Dave, that let's say telomerase turns out to be amazing, and we activate telomerase, and all of a sudden our telomeres are protected. We're all living, better lives because we're healthier and we are younger looking, and our bodies are younger. People, I think we'll see a spike in death rates.
Because
hey, I'm young,
too.
I feel great. Let's do crazy things, you know, and you know, it'll have the opposite effect. I mean, some smart people will live longer and be sensible, but the vast majority of us, I mean, young people for the most part, and I'm not no exception there, act like complete morons. You know, feeling completely indestructible, drinking to excess, drinking, driving,
that's right,
indestructible. Yeah, taking drugs and all kinds of wonderful things that you think you can do because you're young and indestructible. Not so. So if we were to make this treatment available, if it were a success, right, if it's a thing, and people start feeling younger again, right, rejuvenated as it were, right, because we're talking about de-aging or reversing the aging process, right? That's what we're talking about here. We would see that you know, these people would get a whole new impetus for life. They would want to do bungee jumping and parachuting and whatnot, right? Or do some
extreme. Let's call it just extreme
dangerous
sports,
things.
right? Extreme activities. So
exactly.
I'm with you. I think people would tend towards those things because before they were maybe a little. I'm getting older. I maybe I shouldn't do that thing. It's on my bucket list, but you know, I think it's a bit too risky. Now, if the risk is eliminated, hey, I'm there. Yeah, woohoo! Yeah. So I'm going to bungee jump while skydiving.
Yeah.
And taking.
Yeah, and I'll do it while taking a double shot of tequila, right?
I'll drink the whole bottle.
But that's who we are. Drink the. Why not? I mean, it's just a bottle, right? And because your liver. Yeah, and your liver is going to regenerate anyway, so who cares? You're telling me it's protecting you. Hooray!
The only thing that we're set to gain from a level of immortality is knowledge.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's the big thing, right? That's the thing that we can maybe possibly, you know, grow up. I think the growing up part is terribly important. Because, like I said in the past show, and I'm sure you agreed with me, Mackie, but I'll give you the stick in a second, and that is that we're still infants. We're still in the daycare centre. As far as if you could live to 700 years, and I don't know, I'm gonna speak for myself. You know, I'm 50, so I've gone over the middle line there, and I think that I have had a reasonable experience on Earth. I think I've behaved reasonably, but as a long-term view, I'm sure that if I was to live to 700, I'd consider myself today as just being a juvenile.
Oh, and you would live differently as well, Dave. You would plan your life differently, right?
Completely.
Right, I agree, 100%.
For the long term.
Yeah, for the long term, and in fact, you know, you see, this is the thing. Imagine. Think about meditation for a second, everybody. And we do know that meditation actually changes your brain chemistry. People that have been practicing deep meditation in Tibet, you know, in any, I guess, mystic order, but certainly in Tibet and Kathmandu, they have been studies and they show that these people have a fundamentally different brain chemistry. They can control their movements, you know, they level out, they're very calm. So it's you know, and they've only had their life to practice it, which, you know, may have been 40, 50, 60 years. That's not very long in the scheme of things. Imagine if you had 10,000 or 100,000 years available to you. Imagine the levels of spiritual enlightenment you could reach if you had that kind of time. Imagine the level of body control you would achieve if you practiced yoga for 5,000 years. So the yogis today that practice yoga on a very regular basis. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Dave just messaged me Vulcan, you know, like this Spock and whatnot. So that's exactly right. I mean, if you wanted to take a Star Trek example, that's where the Vulcans are at. We could all achieve Vulcanhood if it were. You know, but so let's say you can practice yoga for 5,000 years. And if you look at the things that yogis are able to do today with their bodies, you know, slow their heartbeat and have this amazing body control, contort themselves, you know, even you know, affect their organs directly. Imagine what you could do in 5,000 years if you focused on it. And this is, I think, where we have these ancient stories, the myths and legends about these gods and heroes and immortals that have these amazing abilities, that can do, you know, these amazing feats. And once you put it into context of someone that is very long lived, and maybe has a really good DNA anyway, and maybe even really high technology, all of a sudden, none of the things we read about or were told about in our fairy tales even seem amazing anymore. They're only amazing in the context of our extremely short lives, right? They're only amazing in the context of the mayfly. Right? Because there's nothing more precious and rare than the second morning for the mayfly, right? We never get the second morning. We lived a life of 100 years, 120 years on the outside, maybe 180 years, like some undocumented cases. 180 years, right? That seems like a long time. It's not. I know, right? Even if you could, do all these wonderful things in 180 years, it wouldn't have a patch. It wouldn't have a patch on the things you could do if you lived for 10,000 or 100,000 years. Okay, and the levels of control we would learn over our bodies, the levels of control we would learn over our minds, and maybe that's the point, Dave. And again, I'm going full circle here with the hypothesis. So in our legends, we have been told very clearly that we were not allowed to live this long anymore. Almost every culture has a legend around this where we were somehow clipped. Our wings were clipped. And we were, in the Bible it says, she'll only live 120 years or whatever it was. Whatever the number of years was. This is you should live this long and no longer. Right? So the god or the gods decided, no, you guys are not going to live this long anymore. Right? Because I think that would lead to self-actualization on a level that we can only dream of. Okay? And I believe that the self-actualization actually has happened for the elite, and they are, you're right, and I'm getting to it in a second. They have that, they can do that. They have lived in the same body for tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, and they have reached a certain pinnacle of this kind of self-realization. And Dave just messaged me. It was a prevention to get control of ourselves. Telepathy, to the telekinesis, any of the ESP functions that we may have had. And I maintain that the original language was telepathy. I maintain very strongly that the original language, again, in the biblical context, Dave, in the biblical context, I think the original language that we have before the Bible says we were scattered, after the Tower of Babel, given different languages, blah, blah. Not the only story in the world that talks about this, by the way. I believe it was telepathy. We were cut down and we were given languages, which was such a massively dividing factor in our culture. It's incredible. I mean, if you take telepathy away, and now people have to talk through words, even if you speak the same language, there are misunderstandings. We have no hope at all of getting anything right in different languages. Go on.
The motive was to split us up. And give us different languages so we couldn't communicate with each other.
Yes, absolutely. We were punished for something, right? Clearly. Now, and again, I maintain very, very strongly that we are not the Adamu. We are not the Adamu. We are the ones that came after the Adamu, who had been wiped out in the global cataclysm, which in the West we call the flood. But again, if you do the research, and we have, and you go to our show cycle on this, which generated the most show notes out of any of our shows, 184 pages. That's a little book, if you will. There are flood myths from all over the world that talk about these things. We were punished, potentially, right? Or something was allowed to happen to get us where we are. And there's a mixing up, a jumbling up of legends and the mythologies as well. Because the confusion of languages it seems to have happened after the flood in some of the mythologies, or just prior to it. And look, it doesn't really matter when it happened, but what it seems to say to us, number one, there was a cataclysm which wiped out the Adamu. Tick, right? So the people that we created out of the material of the Igigi, the DNA, they were wiped out. And here we are, we came along, we were growing artificially, yet again, just like the Adamu, after the flood, we were growing artificially, right? Out of the whatever material was available, I guess. And then the confusion of languages, meaning that our ability to communicate telepathically was taken away. And I do believe, and I said this before, but babies, right, when they're born, I believe they cry as they do because they are trying to communicate telepathically. I believe that the crippling of the telepathic organ or sense or whatever it is that we have happens during our early formative years, right? Something happens, some chemical is switched on, because mothers have this, even fathers, there is a link. I don't care what you say, but we can sense if something is wrong with our children, right? Yes. We do. There's this sense. And that somehow something happens as you grow up that completely gets lost. Not so much for twins, that there seems to be some of it left, and even between mothers and children, some of it is left, right? But it is no longer a viable form of meaningful communication, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. And that was taken away from us. But children cry as badly as they do, I believe, because they try to communicate with us telepathically. They just can't. Mm-hmm. And that's why it takes them so long to learn a language. And I believe that's why it takes them so long, among other reasons, to become useful. A lion is born, a horse is born, a monkey, an ape is born, and they are functional. They are functional. Can they survive on their own? Well, probably not, because they might get eaten by someone, right? But they're functional. They can walk around. You know, they don't have to be carried around. They don't have to be cared for 24/7 in the animal kingdom. We are we're not the only one, but we're one of the few species that require care for as long as we do, and we probably require care the longest out of all the species, right? Because it's just the way we're organized. I mean, look at our babies; they're completely useless for the first year. They can't fend for themselves at all. I mean, none. There's nothing that the child can do for itself. It can't even move yet. It hasn't. The eyes haven't. The focus of the eyes doesn't come in for weeks. Mm-hmm. Think about that. We are completely helpless as newborns, right? Now to me, that says.
That to me would make sense if we lived for 10,000 years.
It does, yes, but it also makes sense. It also makes sense if you live in a highly advanced society. If we had lived in a highly advanced society for a very, very long time, right, where these immediate needs to be self-sufficient and have survivability capabilities, that would make sense to me, because it's not necessary. Because in a highly advanced, technologically advanced society, it's not necessary. If you communicate telepathically, it's also not necessary. You can tell your parents exactly what you want. So the development of the mind would come first. It would make sense. The body can follow. The body can follow. You're going to be taken care of. Don't worry about it. But that kind of thing only happens if you are living in that kind of environment for a very, very long time. And we do know that the King's List, Egyptian, Babylonian, go back hundreds of thousands of years. These gods, in inverted commas, ruled for hundreds of thousands of years. Meaning, in my opinion, that our formative DNA development, and in fact probably deliberately so, was created then, when this help, this technological environment existed, where you didn't have to be immediately self-sufficient. You could take your time, relax, right? There's a lot wrong. Please.
Okay, so to prove this, to prove that the infant has enough brain capacity to communicate with us, but fails the agility of speech, we taught our children sign language before they could speak. And it didn't hold up their speech at all, not even at all. So they still developed speech at the right point in time. But what they were able to do is communicate to us with a method that they were able to achieve even before the complex speech thing started operating. So that proves their brain was capable of being able to communicate their need to us. So they were able to learn what was what and associate, an action for the thing they wanted, and they just provided us with the sign for it, and we went, here you go, and our children cried the least of our friends' children's in a group. because
Yeah,
they were able
because
to
they can-
communicate. Frustration
Bingo.
has to be
Mhm.
there. The frustration of not being able to communicate. That must be so horrific.
Yes, I completely agree.
Imagine being
Like Dave.
an old soul, Mickey, an old soul, just going,
Oh,
what on
oh,
earth am I supposed
yeah.
to do with this?
Yeah. And you know what? I think a part of the reason we don't remember our previous existences, because again, I believe firmly that reincarnation is part of our cycle here, is probably because we are going through this 9 months in the womb, and then 1 to 2 years of being completely incommunicado. It must be such a shock to the system. So let's say you're taken out of this body, your soul, your essence, whatever, and you go to the place where you really should be, or it's a close approximation, right, of it, and you can communicate properly, which is, well, I guess telepathically you wouldn't speak in that particular state of existence, in my opinion. So you spend some time there, even if it's just a fraction of a second in real life, and then you go into your next body, whatever it might be. But in that time, you probably completely forget all the stuff, and the shock of birth might add further to that, and then the frustration and the might drive you into insanity to some extent. So we might be driven into insanity in the period of the time that you're in the womb to when you're born to the age of maybe, I don't know, one and a bit potentially. That inability, because your vocal cords can't actually make us they can't make meaningful speech. They haven't developed yet. In fact, you might be coming from a culture that didn't speak the language you've been born into, potentially, right? But even if you were,
that's a good one, yeah.
Right, but even if you were, your speech apparatus, as it were, the vocal cords, the tongue, the mouth, they haven't formed sufficiently yet to allow you to make meaningful, distinguishable sounds. It takes time to practice that. So some children have difficulty pronouncing certain letters because it is difficult for your mouth to form those letters. Hard for us to follow. Easy to understand if you learn another language. Because all of a sudden your mouth has to make sounds it just can't make. You say some things in German, right? And you've never spoken German. Even if you think you're perfect, I will hear the difference. Any German speaker will hear the difference. Same. But same if English is not your native language, people will always hear there's something else there, right? Because your mouth, your vocal cords, your tongue, your lip, your larynx, all of it were trained to produce certain sounds, right? So maybe this period is where you lose most of your recollection from previous lives.
There you go. That's a good point.
Right. And some children retain it up to a certain age, and then some very few of us retain it into an older age. A lot of us, though, under hypnosis, are able to relive. It's called, the regression hypnosis. Do we believe it's a real thing? Well, I think it is. Are people highly suggestible at that time? Probably. If you find a good person, a trustworthy person that can regress you, I mean, I would recommend you trying it. Now, just a word of warning: we're not all Caesar or Cleopatra. We're not. It just doesn't work that way.
There was probably only one of them.
That's right.
My mother, before she passed away, she used to perform regression, and she was. You're right. Finding a trustworthy person who is able to not make any suggestions at all. None. Make no suggestions at all during the questioning, because they're trying to work out where you are and what's going on. And that's terribly important for that process to occur. And yeah, I have to say, I was regressed, and I wasn't anyone in particular. I certainly wasn't a superhero.
Napoleon.
I wasn't Napoleon, and I wasn't Cleopatra either. But look, it's important, and I know that everyone that was regressed, it was something that they were able to reflect upon themselves and understand some of the uniqueness about themselves. So why did they behave in this way, and why were some of their either their fears or their behaviors, how could they associate those with things that occurred in this life? Because they couldn't. So they found they found some resolution, some only, not all, but some resolution in discovering them in the prior life. And I'm a strong believer of it, because when I went to the library to attempt to disprove what I saw, I only found that I was proving it and not disproving it. So I was able to identify by name motor vehicles which I'd never seen before, the brands and models from a very early time in automobile history, in the early 1900s, and I was able to identify those, and I knew the model and the year in my head just by looking at like the silhouette of it. Extraordinary. And then when I found the automobile history book, and I found, which I'd never seen before, and I'd only ever seen representations. Sorry, I'm taking this a little off track, but just to say, I'm quietly confident that there's something going on, especially when a 4-year-old, there's evidence that a 4-year-old was able to remember their World War II, not me, someone else, the World War II name, rank and serial number, the ship they were on, their co-pilot's name, the mission in which that was the last mission for them and what it was, and how they died, where they were when they died. Yeah, so all of that information could not be gleaned in any other way unless you lived it. And because it took an effort to try and research it, they found all of that information. It lined up. So how could a 4-year-old who's got no experience anywhere just come up with this information?
That's right.
He even preferred to be called the name that he was called last time. And he's lucky that he got to it when he was still 4, because after then it tends to diminish, and you're unable to build upon that memory and experience, which is the point that we're making today. And I'm bringing it back to Mekki again, that if you were to live 1,000 years or 10,000 years, imagine being able to build on all of your knowledge, and not getting it erased every 100 years or so, right?
Absolutely.
Goodness
100%.
me.
Imagine the life that you could lead. So whoever you are, you might be really good at what you do in your career, in your profession, and whatever you've chosen to do in your life, and that's great. Imagine you had 1,000 years to get good at something. I'm mindful here, or reminded rather, of the movie Groundhog Day. Most of you would probably know it. Bill Murray is cursed or blessed, depending on which way you look at it, to relive the same day over and over. Now, he's not forced to do the same thing over and over. He's just reliving the same day. So he can do different things. Now, I think he lived that day for, it's cold out there, campus, it's cold out there every day. I believe he probably lived that day 100,000 times, maybe 1,000,000 times, right? Because he became a fantastic piano player. He also picked up a whole bunch of other skills. He got to know everybody. Yeah, he learned Italian. He got to know everybody in that town by intimately, and he helped a lot of people. He found out who needed help, and he helped them. So he had a lot of time to do all of that, and he became, in my mind, a completely self-actualized human being. And that, I guess, when he did become that human being, where he was just living his life. He wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. That was, I think, the moral of the story. He was just trying to live a good life, and he had given up on impressing people and impressing the girl that he liked very much. He just, tried to live a good life and help people, and because he had such a good insight, he could help them effectively, saving lives and whatnot. And as soon as he made that transition, I guess, in his mind, he, I guess, was allowed to move on to the next day, and he got the girl, and the movie. But the point is, right? He took all of that time to get better. Initially, he tried to kill himself because he was caught in the same day, right? Over and over, he was just trying to kill himself. Now, and I think that's probably, but that's what would happen to us if we were aware of all the reincarnation or reincarnations that we've gone through. It'd probably be demoralizing, to be honest, to come back over and over again to no obvious purpose. right? Now we have gone some way now in our hypothesis to explaining the purpose, especially around the collapse of the quantum function, if you will, right, into the one reality. It's really around the need for a sentient mind to observe reality for it to be created, and the more sentient minds, the better, right? If there was only one sentient mind in this universe, it would all depend on that one sentient mind. That's it. You'd be screwed pretty much. So having millions and even billions or even trillions and gazillions or whatever knows of sentient minds helps as a redundant system. Do I think that the Earth is unique in this sense? Probably not. Let's say there were a supernova that wipes out the Earth and all humans on it, right? Could we be reborn elsewhere? Yeah, probably. And I think that's exactly what's happening. I think there are other sentient species out there that are stuck in the same that we are. We can't, yet again, anthropomorphize everything. We can't think we are it. We're the pinnacle. This is a very large universe by all accounts. And whatever created it and whatever keeps us here is thinking on scales much larger than we could ever comprehend. So this is one place where this is happening. I'm sure there's an infinite number of other places in the universe where this is happening, where other sentient species collapse the probability curve into the one reality that we all experience. I know that's a step further for a lot of you, and that's okay. It doesn't make this reality any less real. It's a real reality. It's real. It's very real. Is it our home? I want to say no. Not for most of us anyway. I want to say our home is elsewhere. I want to say that we are, in actual fact, multidimensional beings. You can argue, well, we already are four-dimensional beings. And you would be right. We are four-dimensional beings, right? We've got, depth and height and breadth, and we've got duration. So we live in 4 dimensions, and that's true. But we only live each moment. We don't have access or no conscious access to our future, and only limited access to our past. In that we can only access what we remember, or have recorded somewhere. But I believe in our higher dimensional state, we have access to everything at the same time. Where time, in fact, does not exist is an illusion, and our life looks very, very different to this particular experience of life, right? But I don't know if we can take any more esotericism today, Dave.
Well, I know we have 6 minutes, only 6 until the end of the show. And I'd immediately like just to thank everyone in the chat room. I'd like to remind everyone that coming up is a roundtable with Jer Bear. I'd like to thank Nighthawk for allowing us the use of his platform. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, then there is a radio station around this in which we broadcast the initial show, so do try to catch up with us and join the chat room, and it's www.revolution.radio. Go there and you might enjoy some of the other shows as well if you like ours. So I'm still perplexed. I'm still in awe of the possibility of being able to live at least 700 years, let alone 1,000 or 10,000. It still astounds me what you could know.
I know.
Because I'm on a mission to know as much as I can. That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know everything. I want to know everything. I know there's some things certainly that have been redacted. Is this an old show? No, it's not. Geno 2017. That should prove to you that it isn't an old show. I do. I live in the documentaries. I'm just constantly looking for knowledge that I can absorb. And I can't imagine, Mekki, what I would know at 700 years.
I know. Exactly. Right. It's something that's almost inconceivable to us, because people would say, "Oh, your brain is full. Can I please go home?" Right? No. I believe that once we access the higher dimensional aspects of our existence, such as the Akashic record, if you want, or the collective unconscious, I don't know what you call it, I believe that we could store and access an unlimited amount of information. I really believe that. we're limited by our physical form right now. We are completely limited, and not being able to access those higher functions. Okay, I really, really believe that we need to live longer in order to escape this, because to live the right life, to escape this world, is very tough if you just give them the one go at it. And most people never even get a chance because they're not exposed to an environment that teaches them how to escape this particular reality, right? And it takes a very specific and very lucky, I guess, in some ways, person to make the realization, to understand the importance of the pineal gland, to understand the importance of an ascetic lifestyle, to really cut all ties to this particular reality and so forth, right? But imagine if you had, well, not an eternity, but thousands of years, hundreds of years, at least, to contemplate this and then do it right. Would a lot of people do it? Dave? I don't think so. Again,
no,
some
I agree
people
with
might. If you live long enough, you might just, because you're bored, you might as well just try it, right? But I think it just wouldn't be I don't see most people naturally gravitating towards this. So you would probably have to get them young and teach them about these things, right? And then hope that, over the thousands of years of their existence, they would put some of this into practice and actually manage to escape at this particular prison cage. That would be nice. But again, I know human beings, and I'm not hopeful. Again, we are but children, and what can you expect of children but to act in their own self-interest and to maximize pleasure, right? That's who we are, and we're never given the chance to grow up. It's almost coming to the end now, so please do as Dave just suggested. Donate if you can. Support the station. Support the other hosts. Listen to the station. If you find it interesting, why don't you let us know? Give us some comments. We are on YouTube. We've been demonetized because we haven't got 1,000 subscribers. But if you want to help us out and subscribe, that would be awesome. If we in the 6 years that we were monetized, in the 6 years we made $348. So we're not about to become millionaires by any stretch of the imagination from this. So this truly is just something that Dave and I like to do, because we're both caught in the corporate world, I guess, and this is our outlet.
I have to say it is an outlet too, and I quite enjoy it. I like what we're having to learn, and and our amazement, and certainly initially and still today, is that everything's connected. All of the topics that we talk about are all connected. They're all connected in some way. Gino 2017, this is a live show, and yes. Hi Jer Bear there too, by the way. And the connectivity between all of these really stands to reason that we were looking at something bigger than we originally thought. We never expected there to be connections, and there are, and we bring them up as we keep going. What are people talking about Obama in the chat room for?
I think he's listening to the Studio B.
Oh right, okay.
He's chatting in Studio. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Anyway, look, the music's just about to start, no doubt. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. There to be connections. There we go. And there's the music. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your roundtable with Jer Bear, and enjoy daylight saving. Shouldn't even exist. Take care.